Good to see you guys. We last met after the Louisville game, so since then, just recapping that game, it's a big win for our program. I was really proud of the way the coaches and the players handled the highs and lows of what a college football game tends to present. We've really looked at and evaluated and said, how do we eliminate the lows? Like, that's the challenge. Like, when I think of lows, the turnovers, negative yardage plays on offense, defensively continue to eliminate some of the big plays and stopping the run. And we really attacked a lot of those issues during the bye week. And I always tell our coaches and our players, like, we have to have a process to eliminating and fixing issues. And number one, we got to own it, right? Then we have to come put together a plan to attack it and really attack it to fix it in practice. We have to continue to enhance the things we did well in that game and have done well in the season. We won the battle of field position by 7 yards and won the turnover margin. And when you face a good opponent, those two factors are critical to having success. It was a really good team win and a lot of positives from all three phases. Player of the game was Jeremiah Love. On offense and defensively was Xavier Watts, and on special teams is Max Hurleman. And the scout players of the week were Justin Fisher on offense, Isaiah Dunn on defense, and Teddy Rizak on special teams. Our focus for the bye week was, number one, we had to improve. We have to improve as a team, and that's improve at our fundamentals, improve at the tactical execution of what we're doing, and improve on some of the unforced errors that we've committed, during the game. The second thing I want to do is make sure we prepare for our upcoming opponents. Offensively, we continue to prepare for Stanford. Defensively, we prepare for Stanford, but also took a minute to work on some triple option stuff. As we know, we have Navy in a couple weeks and an Army following that. And we had to recover. Our guys were banged up, and we had to be smart in terms of how we prepared and improved, but also actually recover at the same time. And so a couple injury updates. Boubacar Traore will be out for the year with a torn left ACL. Questionable for the upcoming game is Cooper Flanagan with a foot. Gabriel Rubio with his foot. He's feeling good, but his role is still to be determined. So he's questionable for this game. And then Billy Schrouth with his foot is still questionable for this game. Probable, expected to play would be Jordan Faison and his ankle, Josh Burnham, and Christian Gray. A couple other updates. Sam Pendleton will be full go. Ended up having a concussion late in the game versus Louisville, but he's back and expected to go. Ashton Craig had surgery on Friday with Dr. Radigan to repair his ACL. Briante Johnson in return to participation phase, but still a few weeks away to being able to help our team. And then C.J. Carr, he was injured in practice a couple weeks ago and has just some elbow soreness. So really just trying to focus on some other areas of improvement for him as he goes through rehab. But other than that, no other injuries. Just turning the page to Stanford, a rivalry game, playing for the Legends Trophy. It's an important rivalry for our program. Obviously, 2 years ago, they came in here and they beat us. And last year, in the second quarter, we were down, I think 14-13 at one point. And so we really have to prepare. It's a team that has some injuries, that offensively is so multiple in what they've done and what they've shown on film. And then defensively, really pride themselves on stopping the run. It's going to force you to try to take some shots. And so another challenging opponent to prepare for, and a rivalry game that we're going to be looking forward to playing in Notre Dame Stadium. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
First question, front row, all the way on your right, Eric Hansen.
Hey, Coach, I get this question a lot, so I'm going to pass the buck to you. When there are multiple injuries, a lot of people ask about, well, what's going on with strength and conditioning? Why is this happening with the lean into sports science? So what's your take on the number of injuries and what can be done in light of them, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's something we always evaluate. Is there something different that we could have done or should be doing moving forward? I think as you look at, the ACLs, you had a couple that were non-contact, and with Jordan Botello's, who was an ACL, it was a patella, but his was non-contact. Ashton Craig was contact, and so again, I think you always got to try to look for cause and effect, but you also can't make something up, right? And so our sports performance team is a team that I have so much confidence in terms of the way we prepare, the way we get our athletes ready to go. This is just a part of the game, and injuries happen, but you always look for ways to prevent injuries. But you also have to make sure you're prepared. So there is no perfect formula, but I'll tell you, every day, every week that we meet, we're always looking for a way to improve.
And then I was wondering about the two defensive end positions now that Boubacar is gone. I know that Junior and Logan have stepped up a lot. Does Burnham become an option to swing back and forth when he's healthy? Do you add people at those positions?
Yeah. Josh is a guy that can play either field end or Viper for us. R.J. Oben and Bryce Young obviously have done a good job at the field end position, and Junior has done a really good job stepping up at the Viper position, as well as Logan Thomas getting some reps. And so you have 5 quality individuals that can play the end position for us. We got to have guys step up, just like Junior has done. And I'm confident that if something would happen again, we'll have to have another guy step up.
Front row on your left, Tyler Horka.
You guys have been really good out of bye weeks during your tenure as the head coach. I'm curious, does that go back to something maybe you learned at Ohio State with Jim Tressel and your years in coaching, or just what is the root reason for how successful you guys have been?
There is no magic formula, but I think every bye week is different, right? Where it occurs in your season, what injuries you have going on, your upcoming opponent. There's a lot of different things that you have to focus on during that specific bye week. We have another bye week after 3 weeks coming up, and what we do during that bye week, although probably the overall focus will be similar, the details of what we do during that week will change, just being at where it's at in the season and the upcoming opponent after that. So I think the most importantly, you have to evaluate your team at the certain period that you get the bye week. You can't just say, hey, this is what we did last year, let's just throw it right here in this window and do it this year.
This was a big week for Riley Leonard, probably coming off of his best game as a passer at Notre Dame. What did you kind of see him taking some steps from that game, taking things that he learned that he can do in that game and kind of applying it to not just Stanford, but kind of the next 7 games?
Yeah, I thought he did a really good job of decision-making. 2 weeks ago I said we have to continue to focus on our move-to-pocket throws, which I thought he did a better job at. Again, I have a lot of confidence in Riley. Nobody plays perfect, but I thought he did a really good job in terms of his preparation, in terms of his execution in the game, and we're going to continue to build on that. It's let's do things that your players do well, and he did a great job versus Louisville, and we look forward to continue to improve as we move forward.
Third row on your right, Tim Priester.
Coach, you always do a self-scouting when you have a break. I assume you did something along those lines. In terms of third down offense, you've had 2 really good games and 3 subpar. What did you discover during the self-scouting process?
It's mostly down and distance driven. It should be common sense, but the longer the third down yardage is to convert, the less percentage you have at converting them. So what we've really looked at is, you evaluate what you're doing on third down, but how do we make sure we put our offense in better situations to have a shorter conversion on third down? And that's most important, is that we got to be better on first down. As you look at the second half of the Louisville game, we played a lot of that game behind the sticks. And that means that could be because of a couple penalties. That could be because of, we didn't gain yardage on first down. Why? Let's figure out why. But most importantly, we got to put our offense in a position that, it's a more manageable third down instead of the third and long and extra long down a distance that we don't convert well.
You said Stanford's offense is multiple. When Troy Taylor has his trigger man at quarterback, can you talk a little bit more specifically about some of the issues that his offense creates?
Well, I think I have a lot of respect for him as a offensive play caller. As you look back at last year when we played them, we knew they were a unique offense in terms of what they did. You'll see a lot of stress put on a defense based off motions and shifts and formations, and they did some unique things in last year's game where they gave us extra wide splits. And so I think he's a creative offensive mind, but they utilize different personnels. They have some injuries, so we're not 100% sure what we'll see. They probably were a majority 11 personnel team as you go into the first couple games of the year, but they've had some injuries. And so, will we see more 12? Will we see 13? Not 100% sure, but he's a creative play caller that will put a lot of stress on a defense.
Up the middle on your left, Sean Stiers.
Hey, Marcus. Anthony Knapp probably had one of his better games against Louisville a couple of weeks ago. Just your evaluation of where he is right now, and then guys like Tosh Baker and Gerby Lambert behind them, just kind of where they are developmentally right now.
Yeah, Knapp is I feel like he's just gotten better, and it's common sense. You're going to get better over time. You get better through experience, and what he's done is constantly improve from week 1 to week 5. And there's a lot of confidence we have in Anthony Knapp, but he is continuously improving as a offensive lineman. Tosh Baker's been great. A guy that with a shoulder injury, probably at some point could have said, look, I need to get my shoulder fixed. I'm going to hang it up this year. But, he put his team first, and he has given us everything he's got in his body, and he's ready to go if we need him to go in there and play for us. I love Tosh. He's a team glory guy. He puts the team before himself, and, he's a special individual as a senior to have on your team. Gerby Lambert is continuously improving. He got here in the summer. He has a lot of talent. There's always a lot to learn as a freshman, but he is progressing. He's very smart, very athletic, and is going to be a great football player for this team when his time presents itself.
Then I wanted to kind of circle back to the defensive ends. You obviously talked about Burnham being able to play both, and then some of the guys who have been at those positions. Did you try to cross train maybe anybody else at either one of those positions during the bye? Give anybody else any more looks or anything like that?
No. Burnham is a guy that we know can play both, but we feel RJ and Bryce are true field ends for us, and then Junior and Logan are true vipers for what we need them to do. But Burnham right now will be the only one that cross training, and again, if there's injuries that can happen, you have to have a plan B and a plan C, and we do have that ready to go if something unforeseen happens.
Across the aisle on the right, Tim O'Malley.
Coach Riley Leonard's got a differentiator is his ability to run the football, and you guys leaned on that. Was part of the self-scouting, can you continue to lean on him for 7 more games with 1 more bye in there? Is it something you want to be able to take a little bit of a load off him on some of those QB counter and powers? I realize the rest is read option. He makes the choices.
Yeah. He's a threat with the ball in his hands, and, he gives our offense a chance to have success running the ball, and so we have to utilize his legs. We have to utilize his ability to run the ball, but also understand you don't want your quarterback getting hurt. But he wants the ball in his hands. He's a competitor, and we'll continue to utilize him in the running game where we feel necessary.
Follow up on Jadarian Price after the fumble. I don't think he played. What are you looking for him in this week of practice? I'm sure this week's a little bit more important than the bye week where you were resting up, but what do you kind of want to see from his response to that?
We have a lot of confidence. He'll respond the right way. There's obviously Coach McCullough and our program has standards for the running back room and holding on to the ball, and similar with what happened with Audric last year when we played Navy. But Jadarian Price will be the first one to come up here and tell you that's the standard of that room, is to always hand the ball to the official. But there's so much confidence we have in him as a running back and giving him the ball. And he's going to do great things this week and future weeks moving ahead.
Third row on your left, Pete Byrne.
Hey, Marcus. You talked a little bit about the things you thought you did, excuse me, did well against Louisville. In terms of where you would like to improve, what 2 or 3 areas do you think right now are probably most important for you guys to continue on the trajectory that you're on as far as improvement goes?
Yeah, I think we as an entire program, what we can't do is hurt Notre Dame. We have to eliminate some of the unforced errors. We have to eliminate penalties. We have to make sure our ball security, there's no excuse, the weather, anything. You have to make sure we hand the ball to the official so that there's no, without certainty that we have the ball in our possession. And those are things we want to clean up. We got to continue to defensively, we got to tackle. We got to continue to tackle better, right? That's something we're always going to try to do. We got to be crisp in our run fits, and that's ways you can attack that in practice. And, just overall the execution. Like that's important, is that great teams don't beat themselves, and we got to make sure that we're not doing that either.
Justin Fisher was your Scout Team Player of the Week. I think this is the second time this year he's won that. I'm curious what he's doing that helps you guys out. And outside of Scout, is there a role for him on the team?
Yeah, he's playing some special teams for us. He's been down on a couple kickoffs, done some KOR, and he's a valuable member of our program to having success. And I often want everybody in our program to understand that although your roles might be different, the value of you executing your role is so crucial for us to reaching our full potential. And Justin Fisher is a great example. What he provides for the defense in terms of his effort, in terms of his execution as a scout team running back, but then what he does on game day, being a special teams member, it's crucial that he gets his job done in practice and in the game for us to have success. And so he's a great example of your role doesn't define your value, and his value is tremendous for us to have success.
Front row on your right, Pete Sampson.
Marcus, a similar question to Pete's in the vein of Hurleman, and I was interested in a bigger picture of finding guys outside the 85 to help you, like what that process is like, who sort of leads it, and just sort of like why you think it's so important to, like, hey, if we can enhance outside the 85, like maybe it's not just as important, but like it's still very important to do.
It's so important. It's so important. The walk-on process, our personnel department led by Chad Bowden is in charge of finding those guys that can help our football team win and that fit this place. And Max Hurleman, Justin Fisher, we just talked, those guys are crucial in terms of helping us win games. And Max has been great. It happened with Jordan Faison 2 years ago, right? And Max has been an amazing addition to our program. He fits this place, but he's also a really good football player that came in here with the right mindset and has earned everything he's gotten. He's built a lot of trust in the coaching staff, and been our starting punt returner last week, so making big plays on kickoff. And so all those things matter for us to have success. And, we'll see what happens with college sports and roster limits as we move forward, but the walk-ons at Notre Dame, Wapu Nation as they call themselves, have been so crucial for the success of Notre Dame football. And it's something I hope we don't lose because it's invaluable to our success.
I guess this is kind of an injury question, but like Mitchell Evans has played all year. To get a week off, we're still, I think, 11 months away from the ACL. Like, the significance of having a break, and do you see him sort of getting closer and closer to, the guy who looked like an All-American at this time last year?
Yeah. He is, it takes time, right? And the more time that he has to get himself to his full potential is crucial. And so this bye week, I think, was crucial for him in terms of continue to develop in recovery as he still comes back from the ACL of last year. But we got a lot of confidence in Mitch. There's a lot of times that he's been open, but maybe the play call didn't mandate that we throw him the ball. And so he's really working on, his routes, but also working on blocking. and is committed to being the best tight end he can be. And I have a lot of confidence in Mitch Evans.
Front row on your left, Jack Sobel.
Marcus, one more about the defensive ends. When you look at a guy like, Logan Thomas, who was injured in the spring, kind of came in a little thin. What did he show you over the summer and fall camp to be a guy who has helped as much as he has in special teams and is a guy who could help a Viper in a situation such as this?
Yeah. You sound sick, man. You all right? You got a cold? I think it starts off with his development in high school. He played a great high school football program, where he was challenged to be a really dominant football player in high school. And he came in here and had an injury, but was committed to learning the playbook, committed to rehabbing and putting his body to be in a position where he can play college football. He's going to get bigger and stronger and faster as we continue to move forward, but it's his commitment to, being the best player he can be that's given him a chance to play. And I've said this before, but what prevents guys from high school at playing early in college is just the ability to play fast. And he's a guy that it hasn't taken him long to play fast, because I think the development started in high school, right, when he had to learn a college-type defense. And so he's been a guy that's just gotten better, and now you'll see him more and more on the football field.
And then another freshman who played a big role for you guys last week was Leonard Moore. I think he had every defensive snap at corner. What did he show you when you go back and watch the film against a pretty good receiver in like Ja'Cory Brooks and a Louisville offense that gives you confidence in him moving forward?
Yeah, we had a lot of confidence in Leonard. He earned that in practice, fall camp. He has a length, and speed, and just natural ability to play the corner position. He got his opportunity on Saturday with Christian bringing out, and again, continues to gain trust from his coaches because he does it in practice, and he went out and did it in the game versus some really good wideouts. And so Leonard's got an extremely high ceiling, a bright future, and this is just the start of what's going to be a special football player for our football program.
Our last question opportunities for today, up the middle, Mike Berardino.
If we could go back to Louisville one more time, that exchange between Jordan Clark and the guy that he says publicly spit on him. I just wonder, I know football, all kinds of stuff goes on, baiting others, trying to get that kind of reaction. But what's the teaching point out of that? I know in the moment you weren't pleased, and you're probably fortunate he wasn't ejected. But what's the teaching point from that, and how surprising was it a guy who's seen so much went for the bait?
Yeah. You got to put team glory in front of yourself. And Jordan Clark would be the first one that tells you, and it's tough. Sometimes people test your manhood, but you still have to be able to put team before me. And I know we've had long conversations. He regrets the penalty. He regrets his response. Nobody's worth 15 yards. And it's such a challenging situation to have to do that, right? I think we're all innate selfish people. I think we're all naturally that way. But in that moment, and there's moments in every game that you have to put your team before yourself. And you have to let things go. And that was my message to the entire team and to Jordan. As you move forward in life, there's going to be times, this is bigger than the game of football, you're going to have to let some things go because of what can happen in that situation, right? It's not going to be the outcome that you want. And so I thought it was a great teaching opportunity by a guy that cares about the team. He does, and he had just a selfish moment. He knows that, but love him, and he owned it, as I said, like Adon did the week before. You owned it, but we got to continue to learn from it. But he has to understand that football is just a reflection of life, that in times you're going to have to let some things go and put maybe the greater good of your family, your kids, your wife in front of yourself because what you don't want to do is make a decision that's going to negatively impact a lot of people.
And then, in terms of your game day, home game days, seems like, you know, you almost clone yourself. You're everywhere. You're at Mass. You're meeting with recruits. It's a very busy home game day. Where have you evolved that process for you to maybe do what your players talk about, visualizing positive outcomes, good decisions? Do you you carve out a little time on a game day at home to just be still?
Yeah. There's certain things that you have to do as the head coach of this football program on home games that are different than what you have to do on away games. But you can't cheat that. You can't cheat meeting with recruits because that's the future of your program. You can't cheat going to Mass. That's most important. That's more important than anything, you know. And, you know, you have to talk to the officials and some other things that you have to do. But I'm intentional about making sure that my mind is in the place that it needs to be before I take that field, just like we need every person in this locker room to do. Before you take the field, you have to make sure you're centered, your focus is narrow, and you're ready to really go out and execute your job in your role no matter what it is. So I'm intentional about making sure my mind is where it needs to be before we take that football field.
Coach Freeman, thank you.
All right, thank you.